I knew something was off the moment Darren called me kiddo in front of the client. I'm 42. I have plantar fasciitis and a Costco-sized drawer of anti-inflammatories. I built the onboarding system that won Havix the biggest damn contract in its history. But sure, Darren, VP of Ops by way of brother-in-law nepotism, thought it'd be cute to pat me on the back and call me kiddo in a room full of C-suite execs from a $320 million account. It started slow, like a leak in the attic, quiet, but eventually it ruins the ceiling. I'd been with Havix Dynamics for 7 years. Not flashy, not loud, just quietly surgical. I trained every regional team from Boise to Baton Rouge. I built our enablement framework on weekends, while my ex-husband watched reruns of cops in his boxers. Every client success case in the last 5 years had my fingerprints on it, even if Darren thought Sarah's just the training gal. The reorg dropped like a biblical plague. Suddenly, instead of reporting to Marcy, who actually respected process, I was rerouted under Darren. Darren who once printed out an email to show me because reading on a screen gives me a headache. Darren who spelled strategy wrong on a PowerPoint slide during Q2 planning. Twice. Darren, whose only qualification was marrying the CEO's sister, Tanya, who ran HR like it was the PTA. But hey, let me pause for a second, because I know 90% of you are listening to this without hitting that little subscribe button. Yeah, you, I see you. Do us a solid, subscribe and drop a like. It keeps our team caffeinated and slightly less emotionally unstable. All right, back to the dumpster fire. At first, I tried to give Darren the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just green, maybe he'd come around, but nope. Within 2 weeks of the reorg, he slashed my department's travel budget, said, "We'll just Zoom everything, right?" As if training a logistics team in Omaha was the same as screen sharing over a Starbucks Wi-Fi connection. Then he pulled my senior trainer, Jasmine, off our biggest account and reassigned her to a special metrics initiative, which is code for make a dashboard no one asked for. I held my tongue. I documented. I nudged. Quietly, respectfully. Even tried the classic maybe we can align on the KPIs for this quarter so we don't lose traction on client deliverables, which is passive-aggressive corporate for please stop driving this bus into a tree. Darren nodded like a bobblehead and said, "I like where your head's at, but I think we need to sexify the narrative." Sexify the narrative. Meanwhile, our biggest client, Plithos Systems, was gearing up for a nationwide rollout. This wasn't just any SAW contract. It was a monster. 15 states, thousands of users, and every timeline hinged on my training deployment calendar. The client loved me. I don't say that to brag, I say it because it's the only reason we hadn't already face-planted into breach territory. Still, inside Havix, I was fading. Darren wouldn't even let me join a pre-brief call with the client's regional heads. Said, "We don't want to overwhelm them with voices." Like I'm a damn foghorn. When I mentioned in a strategy sync that clause 14.3b of the Plithos contract required continuity of their designated key person, me, Darren waved his hand like I was reciting horoscopes. "Legalese makes my eyes glaze, Sarah. Let's not get bogged down," so I printed it out, highlighted it, left it on his desk. Next morning, I found it in the trash, coffee-stained and folded into a sad little airplane. There's a special kind of rage that bubbles up when you're being erased in real time. When you watch a man with a half-charged Fitbit and a LinkedIn bio full of buzzwords rewrite your legacy with a smirk and a budget spreadsheet. I wasn't afraid of being replaced. I was afraid of what would happen to the work if I didn't say something. But saying something hadn't helped, so I started preparing. Not for a fight, not for a speech, just for exit velocity. When Darren finally pulled me into that beige conference room on the 4th floor and dropped his line, "You're a great trainer, Sarah." But not a leader, I just smiled, stood up and grabbed my notebook. I didn't argue, I didn't beg. I didn't remind him that Plithos had once told our CEO that I was the only reason they renewed. I just walked out, heels echoing down the hallway like a metronome ticking toward his downfall. By the time the elevator hit the lobby, I already knew which 2 emails I was about to send. You ever watch a raccoon figure out how to open a trash can? That's what it was like watching Darren try to streamline operations. First week in, he booked a 2-hour all-hands titled Reimagining Enablement. That's how you know you're about to be gaslit into a reorg. Some jackass throws the word reimagining around like we're in a Pixar movie. I showed up early, sat in the back with my coffee, and watched him strut in wearing a shirt so tight I could see his heartbeat. He launched into a slideshow full of stock images, smiling people shaking hands, a rocket ship taking off, some woman pointing at a pie chart like she just discovered fire. The plan? Kill my onboarding roadmap and replace it with something called the Empower Matrix trademark. With a trademark. I wish I were kidding. He talked about velocity alignment and removing silos, which apparently meant yanking my senior staff off projects they'd been embedded in for months. Darren said we'd be shifting to a pod structure. The man watched one YouTube video on Agile and decided to reinvent the wheel using crayons and arrogance. Within a week, my team's travel budget was frozen. Jasmine, my top trainer, got reassigned to build executive dashboards in Tableau. something she'd never touched in her life. When I raised the issue, Darren gave me his favorite line: "We have to pivot where the energy flows." The only thing flowing was bullshit. Still, I played the game. I stayed late, cleaned up his timelines after hours so the client wouldn't see how far off track we were. Every time I patched a hole, he made a new one. He scheduled over my training sessions with his ideation scrums, canceled my meetings with Plithos leadership without telling me. Once, I found out they had a whole sync without me. My name was scrubbed from the invite like I was dead. I didn't get mad, not yet. I documented everything. I tried to redirect the train wreck. On a Monday pipeline review, I pulled up the Plithos contract and gently reminded Darren that Clause 14.3b defined me as their designated key person. If I was removed from the project, the client had the right to walk. Full termination. No penalties, Darren chuckled. Literally chuckled. Legal jargon's not my thing, Sarah. Let's not scare people with fine print. Then he switched the slide to a heat map of engagement potential and started talking about TikTok influencers. I looked around the room. No one made eye contact. Everyone suddenly discovered something urgent on their laptops. Cowards. The worst part? I still believed I could fix it. That maybe I could talk to legal, or loop in Marcy, or quietly nudge Tanya in HR to talk sense into her idiot brother-in-law. But every back channel was sealed off. Darren had slithered his way into every conversation. He called it flattening the org. What it really meant was making sure no one had the authority to tell him he was wrong. I kept going, kept smiling in meetings, kept telling Plithos everything was on track while quietly rebuilding their rollout calendar in the background after Darren nuked half the dependencies. He kept scheduling meetings he didn't understand, used phrases like client vibe and monetize trust. One time he told the client PM, "We just need to jazz hands the messaging a bit." I think part of her soul died on the spot, and yet I didn't stop. I couldn't. This system, this rollout, it wasn't just a job, it was my work. My name was on it. I'd bled for this thing. Missed birthdays. Sat in hotel lobbies at 2 a.m. rewriting user guides. Talked frontline staff through mobile app logins during hurricanes. Darren thought it was just another project. To me, it was sacred. But the more I tried to preserve it, the more it felt like trying to hold back a flood with a broom. One Friday, during a project milestone call, Darren interrupted me mid-sentence to say, "We're actually gonna sunset the legacy enablement module. It's outdated." He was referring to the exact framework Plithos had approved, signed off on, built into their own internal documentation. I froze. The client team went silent. Then their regional VP, a woman named Annika who'd flown in from Chicago just for that call, said slowly, "Sarah, that's not what we discussed." I nodded, took a breath, and replied, "No, it's not." After the call, I messaged Darren, "We need to align on client-approved deliverables." His reply, "Relax, you're too close to this. Take the weekend off." That was when I realized something sharp and final had shifted. I wasn't fixing anything anymore. I was watching a house I built catch fire while the arsonist handed out marshmallows. The prep call was a disaster in slow motion. We were reviewing final readiness for Phase Roman 2 of the Plithos rollout, multi-state activation, 3 new verticals, high-level compliance training. I'd prepped the entire deck, ran the dry run with Jasmine the night before, made sure every single one of Darren's typos and nonsense buzzwords were cleaned up. I even included one of his stupid phrases, user empathy pathways, just so he'd feel heard. Felt like feeding glitter to a raccoon, but whatever. The client team showed up ready, cameras on, coffee in hand, all business. I walked them through deployment timelines, trainer assignments, risk mitigation. Then Darren took over and started rambling about cross-pollination potential and organic alignment with millennial engagement matrices. At one point, he said we were synergizing the sync points with a horizontal reach around. I saw the project manager at Plithos visibly flinch. Still, I smiled. Still, I nodded. And when the call ended, he didn't say good job, didn't say thanks for leading that, didn't even ask how the client seemed. Just glanced at his phone and said, "Sarah, swing by my office before you head out." His office always smelled like printer toner and self-delusion. Fluorescent lights buzzing like a hangover. He didn't even look up when I stepped in. Just waved a hand toward the chair across from his desk. I didn't sit. He tapped his pen against a notebook, then finally looked at me with the kind of smile you only see on men who think this is the moment I'm going to become important. "I've been thinking," he started. "You're a great trainer, Sarah. One of the best, seriously." Then a pause, not long, but long enough to let the word but hang in the air like the smell of burnt toast. "But you're not a leader." I didn't move, didn't blink. He leaned back like he'd just delivered a TED talk, which he probably thought he did. "You get too emotionally invested in the client stuff. That's not strategic, that's tactical. What we need now is vision, scalability, big picture energy." I stared at him and thought, you wouldn't recognize a scalable solution if it bit your ego off and made you a spreadsheet about it. But I didn't say a word. He went on. "We're sunsetting some of the legacy systems, we're focusing on dashboard-first workflows. You've done great work here, but it's time we move to a model that's future-facing." I glanced past him out the window. Across the street, someone was changing a tire in the rain. No umbrella, no coat, just getting it done. That's what I've been doing for 7 years, getting it done. I talked to HR, he added, and that's when I knew this wasn't a conversation, it was an obituary in passive voice. We're framing this as a strategic redundancy, he said, as if it were a mercy. 2 weeks of severance. You don't need to finish out the week. We'll get your equipment shipped if needed. He stood up, extended his hand like we were finishing a polite game of chess. I didn't take it, I walked out. Back to my desk, past coworkers who suddenly became very interested in the bottoms of their coffee mugs. I could feel the tension in the air, like static before a storm. I didn't cry, didn't slam anything. I just opened my drawer, pulled out my notebook, my charger, and the tiny cactus plant Jasmine gave me last year with a note that said, "You're the only thing keeping this place alive." My badge slid into my bag with a soft thunk. I left the framed certificate Havex had given me for Client Excellence 2021 on the desk. Let Darren hang it on his wall if he wants. Wouldn't be the first time a man tried to steal credit for something I built. I paused once at the door, just once. Darren was already in the hallway, shaking hands with someone from HR like he'd just won Employee of the Month. He didn't even look my way. Good. I didn't want my last image of that place to be his beady little eyes thinking he'd finally gotten rid of the woman who made him look dumb in front of a client. No farewell Slack message. No dramatic speech. No slow clap from the interns, just silence, and that silence was mine. The elevator felt slower than usual, or maybe time had just slowed to match the weight in my chest. Funny how something as small as a ding, 4th floor, 3rd, 2nd, can sound like a funeral march when you're carrying the last 7 years in a laptop bag and a bruised sense of dignity. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I wasn't even angry, I was surgical. By the time the elevator reached the lobby, I had my phone out. No apps, no doom scrolling, just Outlook, 2 emails, pre-drafted. Written weeks ago during one of Darren's brainstorm huddles while he babbled about gamifying synergy. I'd been prepared, not because I thought it would happen like this, but because with men like Darren, it always ends like this. First email, to legal@Havex Dynamics.com subject. Contractual breach clause 14.3, B, immediate review required body. Dear Legal, this is to formally notify you that effective today, I am no longer assigned to the Plithos Systems rollout. As outlined in clause 14.3b of our client agreement, this constitutes removal of the designated key person and therefore may trigger client-initiated termination rights. Please confirm receipt and review the clause in question. Regards, Sarah L. Kessler. I reread it once. Cold, factual, tight, no emotion, no flourish, just legal thermite placed precisely where the floor was weakest. Sent. Then I opened the second one. Took a beat, closed my eyes. Second email, to Annika Morrow at Plithosystemscom subject. Thank you, body. Hi, Annika. I wanted to personally thank you and your team for the opportunity to work together on the Plithos initiative. As of this morning, I am no longer with Havex Dynamics. I am grateful for the collaboration and the trust you placed in my work over the last 2 years. I have every confidence in your continued success. If you have any questions regarding transition materials or open items, I'm happy to connect briefly. Please direct formal communications through Havex Legal going forward. Warmly, Sarah. Then, before hitting send, I added one more line. BCC, R. Leclerc at Plithosystemscom. Robert Leclerc, EVP of Enterprise Expansion. My first point of contact at Plithos. We'd done a hellish onboarding sprint in Dallas 2 years ago and bonded over bad hotel coffee and 3 a.m. system crashes. He once told me, if anyone at Havex ever gets stupid, call me before I fire someone on accident. I never called, but I just pulled the pin. Sent. The lobby was quiet, too quiet for a Friday. No one at the front desk, just the soft hum of the vending machine and the ghost of Darren's smug voice still echoing in my head. You're not a leader. No, Darren, I'm a fuse. I stepped out into the parking lot, air thick with late summer humidity and the scent of wet concrete. I didn't look back, just walked to my car like I was heading home from any other day, as if I hadn't just gutted their biggest account with 2 polite emails and 7 years of quiet leverage. As I buckled my seatbelt, my phone buzzed. Not a reply, not yet, just a read receipt. Plithos had opened the email, and someone inside legal had forwarded mine. The match was lit. I didn't need to watch it burn. I just needed to wait. Darren strutted through the office the Monday after I left like he'd just cured cancer with a pie chart. He even wore a jacket. Not a blazer, an actual bomber jacket, like he thought he was launching a startup from WeWork in Palo Alto, and not running Havex's operations into the dirt from a converted accounting office next to a nail salon. He made a show of shaking hands, patting shoulders, and telling people how liberating it felt to finally streamline things. HR marked my departure as a clean break in the system. No flags, no issues, no exit interview. Tanya probably typed it herself, wearing those fake pearls she thinks make her look like a Kennedy. The Slack channel I built for client support was archived. My folders were reassigned to some poor intern who thought enablement flow meant arranging sticky notes in a nice color gradient. Meanwhile, Plithos went dark. No follow-up calls, no emails, no Jira ticket responses, just silence. At first, Darren didn't notice, or maybe he noticed but assumed it was normal. They're probably heads down, he said when someone from PM asked if we should ping their implementation team, or maybe they're regrouping post-holiday. Let's not panic. Then a status call was missed. Not just by one person, by the whole client side. 15 people no-showed with no notice. Darren chalked it up to a calendar sync issue and moved the meeting to the following day. Same result. By Wednesday, Jasmine, who Darren had banished to the dashboard squad, came by his office to flag that Plithos hadn't updated their sandbox instance in over a week. Darren waved her off with a half-eaten protein bar in one hand and said, "They're probably reprioritizing features. Nothing to worry about. Sarah's gone, but the system lives on, except the system wasn't living, it was sputtering. The enablement calendar, my enablement calendar, had been gutted. Half the dates were wrong. The timelines Darren forced in after I left didn't account for the regional restrictions we'd fought tooth and nail to accommodate. Missouri's team still didn't have credentialed access. Florida was using test data from March. Oregon thought the entire rollout was delayed until Q4. Annika, VP from Plithos, stopped responding altogether. The ops team started whispering. Quiet stuff at first. Anyone heard from Sarah? Did she leave notes? Did she really just vanish? But Darren wasn't worried. He held a little team huddle in the break room, handed out those mini cans of Coke like we were kids after soccer practice, and said with a wink, "It's normal." Clients stall. Sarah just had a knack for babysitting. We'll train the trainers. Babysitting. That's what he called 2 years of building a system. So clean the client once offered me a full-time position on the spot. A system I stress-tested during a hurricane while sitting in a holiday in laundry room, rerouting trainers over VPN. He held a follow-up sync that Friday, bragging that we were ahead of schedule, despite missing 2 milestones and half the feedback loops. He said things like deliverable elasticity and adaptive client psychology. One of the new hires looked like she was trying to astral project out of her own body. Still, no word from Plithos, no calls, no emails, just a silence that stretched longer and tighter like the pause before a siren. The board didn't notice. Yet, too far removed, too focused on the next acquisition target. But inside the walls of Havix, the temperature was changing. People started pulling old emails, checking Slack threads, digging for docs with my name on them like archaeologists trying to make sense of a lost civilization. And me, I was quiet, home, logged out, no more late nights. No more saving face for a man who thought integrity was a vibe. I sipped my coffee, read my book, and watched the sky turn orange through the window. Storms don't announce themselves, they gather, quiet, slow, then they hit. The letter hit at 9:12 a.m. on a Tuesday. That's how precise these things are. Not a phone call, not a warning. Just a sleek, ice-cold PDF attachment in the inbox of Havix's CEO, subject line, Notice of Contract Termination Plithos Systems. The language was surgical. Pursuant to Clause 14.3b of the Master Service Agreement, which identifies Ms. Sarah Kessler as the designated key person for enablement continuity. This correspondence serves as formal notification of contract termination due to material breach. It didn't yell, it didn't threaten, it simply ended everything. A $320 million rollout, gone. Inside Havix, the panic started as a glitch. An intern saw a new flag in the CRM and quietly asked if the Plithos account was being moved to archive. The director of sales said, "What flag?" And 15 minutes later, 4 executives were stomping toward legal like angry mall Santas. Darren, he didn't even flinch. When the first murmur reached his desk, he sipped his green smoothie, something with matcha and whatever leafy regret tastes like, and said, "It's a misunderstanding. Legal will smooth it over, probably just a paperwork error." By 11 a.m., the board was on a Zoom call. By 11:05, they were no longer muted. By 11:08, someone used the phrase catastrophic lapse. Darren still insisted it wasn't real. He said words like lawyer games and we'll counter with a continuity clause of our own. He tried to resurrect a slide deck called Phase 2 Reassurance Tactics and got laughed out of the war room. One of the directors, Samantha Lynn, who had been friendly but firm during my tenure, asked him point blank if he knew what Clause 14.3b even was. He said, "Something about staffing flexibility?" That's when legal finally walked in. Real quiet, real pale, and holding a printed copy of my email, the one I sent from the lobby 4 days prior, referencing the clause, the breach, and the known risk. "Sarah warned you," legal said, in writing. Darren stammered something about context, that I was emotional, that it wasn't flagged properly, that it should have gone through HR. But no one was listening anymore. The room was already turning. Meanwhile, I was home in my kitchen, folding laundry. I'd just finished a load of towels when my phone buzzed. From Annika Morrow at Plithos Systems Com subject, quick chat, body, "Hi Sarah, hope you're well. Would you be available for call tomorrow morning?" No pressure, just wanted to catch up. Warmly, Annika, I stared at the screen for a full minute, heart slow and calm. Not surprised, not excited, just ready, because I knew what that email meant. She wasn't calling to say goodbye. She wasn't calling to gossip. She was calling to open a door. Back at Havix, Darren had locked himself in his office and was rewriting the project timeline like he could undo a contract breach with a few bullet points and a motivational quote. Someone told me he tried to get Tanya from HR to reclassify my departure as a mutual decision so they could argue it wasn't a removal. Tanya refused. She had finally decided her pearls weren't worth perjury. By 3 p.m., every floor at Havix knew, not just that Plithos pulled out, but why. Slack threads turned feral. People forwarded old emails like digital grenades. My name popped up in half a dozen threads. People I hadn't heard from in months were suddenly scrambling to find notes I'd left, documents I'd built, old versions of the rollout guide Darren deleted. They were drowning in a house that forgot who built it. And I was doing just fine. I lit a candle, I poured some wine, and I scheduled that call. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 7 a.m., which at Havix meant one thing. Somebody had set the house on fire and couldn't find the extinguisher. The boardroom smelled like stale coffee, carpet glue, and fear. Half the execs were still blinking sleep out of their eyes. The other half were already sweating through their collars. No pastries, no small talk, just grim faces, glowing laptops, and the low thrum of legal doom building in everyone's ears. Legal started by passing out printed copies of the Plithos letter, each one clipped neatly like a death certificate. Clause 14.3b, the General Counsel said, clearing her throat, designates a key individual, Sarah Kessler, as essential to the continuity of services. Removal of said individual without client consent constitutes grounds for immediate contract termination. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't need to. It was written in black and white, signed by Plithos's top brass, CC'd to every department from legal to procurement. And it was ironclad. Dead silence followed. The CEO, Charles Renner, a man who once called me the glue in our ops engine, looked up from the letter like he'd just been told the Titanic was a pool floaty. He adjusted his glasses, blinked twice, and said flatly, "Who authorized her removal?" All eyes shifted to Darren. He looked like a kid who just realized the science fair volcano was supposed to erupt and not just sit there looking like a papier-mâché hemorrhoid. He shuffled in his chair, cleared his throat, and launched into what I can only describe as a live-action rendition of every excuse ever invented by a man who thought charisma could replace accountability. She was a trainer. A strong one, yeah, but not at a leadership tier. The reorg was meant to, well, we didn't remove her per se, you fired her, someone cut in, quietly, from legal. Darren turned to them like a drowning man spots a boat, only to realize it's sailing away. HR signed off. He stammered, I was told it was a strategic redundancy. The CEO narrowed his eyes. Did you read the contract? Darren didn't answer, just blinked. I asked you a question, Renner said, voice now low and sharp. I skimmed it, Darren admitted. I was told legal had it. Legal had it, the General Counsel said, tapping her copy, and so did you. Sarah emailed this office the day she left, cited this exact clause. It was logged, flagged, and forwarded. Forwarded to who? Renner asked. Your office. Tanya's, Darren's. The boardroom fell into a deeper silence, the kind that feels like standing in a church basement after a tornado. You survived, sure, but now you see what's left. Darren sank a little in his chair. He looked at the email. His own initials were on the CC line. He'd seen it, ignored it, probably deleted it while mixing whey protein and incompetence in his office blender. Renner stood slowly, hand on the back of his chair like he was trying to hold onto the last piece of solid ground. You dismissed a key person. The clause was flagged. You failed to act, and now we've lost our biggest contract. Darren opened his mouth again, God bless him, still thinking he could pivot out of this like it was a branding meeting, but Renner shut it down with one raised palm. No spin, he said. No framing. This isn't about narrative. This is negligence. Legal flipped another page. I've already had 2 inquiries from industry press. Plithos hasn't responded publicly yet, but if this goes to litigation, Renner nodded once. We're done here. No one moved, not a whisper, not a shuffle, just Darren, pale and sweating, staring at a page with my name on it like it might come alive and bite him. And me? I was on mute, watching the calendar tick toward 9:30 a.m. My call with Annika was in 30 minutes. The lawyer didn't raise her voice, didn't shift in her chair, didn't even look up from the page at first. But when she did, when she lifted her eyes and pinned Darren with a stare that could sharpen knives, everyone in that room knew we'd reached the part of the movie where the villain realizes the last elevator is already gone. Did you know, she said slowly, that Sarah Kessler was the named key person in the Plithos contract? Not a key person. The silence was radioactive. Darren swallowed hard. Look, I was brought in to streamline ops, that's not an answer, she cut in. Renner didn't blink. He was sitting forward now, elbows on the table, fingers steepled like a man who'd spent the last 20 minutes reliving every bad hiring decision of his career. Did you know? The lawyer repeated. Darren floundered. I knew she was critical, yes. But the wording key person, I assumed that was general. Symbolic. You know how clients get attached, the COO snapped. Symbolic. Was in the damn contract, Darren. Darren held up both hands like a hostage negotiator. I didn't see the final MSA, that was before my time. No one briefed me on, except she did, said the General Counsel, lifting a sheet of paper and shaking it gently. You were CC'd on her exit email. She cited clause 14.3b verbatim. You ignored it. You called it, quote, legalese and tossed the printed copy in the trash. Retrieved it from your bin, Darren, coffee stain and all. Darren's mouth hung open. Renner stood, not rushed, not dramatic, just with the weight of a man who's just watched his company bleed out in real time. I'm placing an immediate freeze on all current and pending initiatives under your division, he said, voice like gravel over steel. All budgets, all hiring, all external comms. Effective now. Someone at the far end of the table, Lisa, head of sales, muttered under her breath, we're screwed. No one disagreed. Darren stood, a shaky half-rise like he thought if he moved enough people would mistake it for action. I can fix this, he said. Sit, Renner ordered, not even looking at him. The lawyer continued. The client's wording was intentional. They're terminating with cause, no payout, no phased withdrawal, just a hard stop, and the damage doesn't end with them. What do you mean, someone asked. She flipped to the last page. We've received 2 RFP withdrawal notices in the last 48 hours. Both cited uncertainty around leadership stability and client retention. Translation, the industry's already talking. The air in the room got thinner. You could almost hear the LinkedIn profiles being updated in real time. Darren looked around, wild-eyed, waiting for someone to back him up. No one did, and through it all, I said nothing, because I wasn't there. My name wasn't on the Zoom invite. My voice wasn't echoing off the glass walls of that boardroom. I wasn't offering rebuttals or monologues or a final I told you so. All I'd done was send 2 emails, one to legal, one to the client, and yet somehow I was the loudest person in the room. The news broke on a Thursday. No press conference. No statement from Havex's leadership, just a 2-paragraph disclosure buried on page 4 of Tech Industry Wire under the headline. Plithos terminates $320M rollout with Havex Dynamics amid internal breach. That was it. No spin, no quotes, no way to soften the blow. The article mentioned a contractual misstep involving a named key personnel clause and recent reorganization turbulence as reasons for the severed relationship. But everyone in the industry knew what that meant. Clients started whispering. Competitors started circling. Recruiters started sending thinking of you DMs to half of Havex's delivery team by lunchtime. Inside Havex, things unraveled faster than they could glue them back together. Darren was transitioned out of his role within 48 hours. No farewell memo, no company-wide thank you email. Just silence, followed by the quiet removal of his bio from the leadership page. Tanya took a leave of absence. Rumor was she knew more than she let on, and HR was trying to shield her from a formal audit. Renner issued a bland internal memo about refocusing on foundational values and learning from recent events. No one bought it. Everyone knew they didn't just lose a client, they lost the client. The golden goose, the one they'd built 2 fiscal years around. Entire departments were spun up to support Plithos. Now they sat in rooms full of whiteboards in silence. Me, I took Annika's call that morning, wearing pajama pants and a sweatshirt with a hole in the sleeve. We talked for 40 minutes about timelines, continuity, and a new initiative they'd been planning quietly. They didn't want Havex to touch it, they wanted me, not as an employee, as a consultant, independent, flexible, at a rate Darren couldn't have imagined without a calculator and an inhaler. The funny thing, I didn't say yes immediately. I made coffee, sat on my porch, listened to birds and the hum of a neighborhood too far removed from boardrooms to care about sabotage and smirks. Then I wrote back, clean and simple. Subject, let's discuss next steps, body. I'd be happy to support the new initiative. Let's set up a scoping call. Warmly, Sarah, 3 days later, I finalized a strategic partnership with their new vendor, Havex's biggest competitor. Together, we'd finish what Plithos started. Only this time, without the dead weight. The same morning, I received one last email from IT at Havex. Subject, access deactivation body. Hi Sarah, hope all is well. Just checking if you still require access to the Havex internal portal. Let us know if you need anything prior to account closure. Best, Nick, I took a deep breath, smiled, and typed one line. Please remove my credentials from the Havex portal. I no longer require access. And that was that. No victory speech, no parade, just freedom. Quiet, complete, and overdue. I wasn't back where I started. I wasn't behind. I was beyond. And now, finally, undeniably, the leader. Appreciate you sticking around, you legends of the break room. Subscribe for more chaos. Let's make your old managers spill their coffee in fear.